All right, so we're going to write an essay that is both a personal narrative or includes a personal narrative, meaning it's a personal story about something that happened to you in your life. And it's also going to serve as an argument paper, meaning that you're going to have a point, some issue that you're going to take a side on and address. So I started you guys out with the key moments activity, and it talks about certain key moments that a lot of people have in common, share in their life, and you had to reflect on memories from your key moments and had to write about two of those. When you move on to the essay, you're going to choose one of the two things that you wrote about, and you're going to write a narrative argument essay. So the next thing I give you is this handout, which is beginning the narrative. And this gives you creative ways to start. It gives you a typical boring start. It was a day at the end of June. My mom, dad, brother, and I were at our camp in Rangley Lake. We arrived the night before at 10 o'clock, so it was dark when we got there and unpacked. We went straight to bed. The next morning, when I was eating breakfast, my dad started yelling for me from down at the dock at the top of his lungs. He said there was a car in the lake. That's very flat. It's not very interesting. It does a good job of telling what happened, but we need a better way to convey it because we have to hook our readers. We have to get their attention early on, or they're not going to want to read our paper. So we have some different examples here. One is main character does something. So this one just puts a lot of action into it. So instead of I had a glass of milk, you say I gulped my milk, pushed away from the table, and bolted out of the kitchen, slamming the broken screen door behind me. That one sentence has one, two, three main action verbs and a participial phrase, which is a verb phrase. So there are four verbs in that sentence. That's a lot happening. So get your story going like right off the bat. I ran down to our dock as fast as my legs could carry me, my feet pounding on the old wood, hurrying me toward my dad's voice. Scott, he bellowed again. Okay. Coming, Dad, I gasped. I couldn't see him yet. Just the sails of the boat that had already put out into the lake for the day. So a couple of things here. We have all of that action, and then we have dialogue. So instead of up here, it just says my dad started yelling for me. You actually have the dad say something. And to say something when you're writing, you use quotation marks. Not the same as when you embed evidence, although we use the same symbol. But this means that he's actually speaking. Uh, Scott, he bellowed again. Coming, Dad, I gasped. So we have two people talking. I couldn't see them yet, just the sails of the boat that had already put out into the lake for the day. So this builds up some interest in what's going to be happening, kind of hints. So that's cool. That's action. Now this is just more dialogue. This gets into your Quentin Tarantino, where you just have very engaging dialogue, which holds your intro together and makes it interesting. Scott, get down here on the double, Dad bellowed. His voice sounded far away. Dad, I hollered, where are you? I squinted through the screen door but couldn't see him. I'm down on the dock. Move it. You're not going to believe this, he replied. So a lot of dialogue, and we're building suspense because something extraordinary has happened. Okay, third is a reaction. This is a character thinking and pondering. This is probably the toughest one to do and still make interesting. You have to be talking about something engaging. I couldn't imagine why my father was hollering for me at 7 o'clock in the morning. I thought fast about what I might have done to get him so riled. Had he found out about the way I talked to my mother the night before when we got to camp and she asked me to help unpack the car? Did he discover the fishing reel I broke last week? Before I could consider a third possibility, Dad's voice shattered my thoughts. Scott, move it. You're not going to believe this. So here they're building up intrigue as he wonders what it could be about and even gives some little interesting tidbits to get our attention, a little bit of drama that's going on behind the scenes. Last one here. There is a car in the lake. Not just any car, our car. Unexpectedly, my first thought was not to wonder about how it got there, but instead to hope I hadn't left my phone inside. My dad's voice shattered the strange calm of my thoughts. Stop staring and help me figure out what to do, he yelled. So this one, you just have something so interesting, and you're almost reading it so deadpan and flat for the irony of it. There is a car in the lake. Not just any car, our car. It's like understated. So this is an interesting one, probably a tougher one to use. also to make it interesting. But it is interesting enough that a car is in the lake. Notice these other ones didn't even tell you that the car was in the lake. They saved that. This one they felt like, well, we need the most interesting, shocking thing we can come up with and start with it. And then from there, they start kind of backing it up and letting you know uh, the rest of the situation. Okay, these are all introductions. This is just how you start your paper. You haven't even started talking about the topic yet that you're going to be discussing. Um, so I want to take a second now and shift over and show you my example paper. Now, I didn't choose one of the topics that y'all chose. I always tend to choose something different, just because I don't want a bunch of people just modeling that same topic. But you can see I'm doing the same thing. So I'm going to read through this and let's take a look and see which one of these I used. Um, this is called Yelling at Trees. It seems that everyone claims to be an introvert today, socially awkward or at least antisocial. Maybe it's true. Maybe it's just so acceptable now that it makes for a nice, easy icebreaker in social situations. But I was an OG introvert, a member of the old guard, the quiet kid that seemed better off with his nose in a book than hanging around chatting it up with my peers. Usually the bookish among us sort of balance things out with their good grades and future prospects, but that wasn't me. I was a reluctant C, sometimes slide right into D student, and I was about to learn a valuable lesson about being introverted from my all-American uncle, Uncle Sam. At 17, I joined the Army. So that's my introduction. And if we look at this, I don't have a lot of action. I am definitely a character thinking. So this is this one right here. I'm thinking about a topic, and then I don't have a quote to kick me off. I kind of put the, not shocking, but the interesting statement at the very end. At 17, I joined the Army, which has a little bit of irony, both because 17 is an age a lot of you almost are, and then joining the Army is something that is kind of interesting to some people. And then next thing I do is I start going into my story. I told you that this story, it's going to have a personal narrative, which is a personal story. Things started all right. We were standing shoulder to shoulder, packed in a cattle trailer, careening along a dirt road in Missouri. It was cramped, the trailer smelled of manure and fear, and we were all headed to the worst version of summer camp imaginable. But no one was talking. So far, so good. Again, because I'm an introvert. Then we pulled into the back gate of the Army base, past countless blocky tan buildings before eventually stopping before one. As if on cue, it began to rain, and there outside of our trailer stood 3 angry men. Even in the rain, their uniforms looked perfect, as if the rain was afraid to land on them, as if it knew what we were about to learn. These men were demons, and demons were never introverts. Okay, so I start telling my story. Now, this topic of my paper, my argument, is going to be that being introverted, although it may be natural for a lot of people, it's not a good way to go through life. So my paper in the end is going to argue that we need to engage with people. We need to learn how to get up and speak in front of people, even if we're uncomfortable doing it. So that's kind of what my argument is. My story is about this experience in the Army where they basically picked me out as being an introvert on day one. And because of that, they put me in charge. So I would be forced to get out and do things. I have a couple of notes here, and I think if you go look at my paper online, I don't think you guys see these. So first one, pro tip, the title of a paper, don't ever try to come up with that first. That's a creative thing, and what you want to do with creative things is put them in the back of your brain, kind of like on a computer, things working in the background. Just skip over it. Go to the part of the paper you know, your story. Start telling your story. Even here, I may not have written this first, just because it's an introduction, it's got a little hook action to it. It takes a little creativity. What I could have started right away with is this paragraph, because this is right, just telling my story, which I remember, I know. So instead of staring at a blank screen or a blank page, go and start writing the part that you know. Get writing. As you're writing it, your brain in the background is going to be working on this other stuff. Hey, what's a clever title? Hey, what's a good way to start this? Um, and then you can kind of go from there. So if you wanted to start here, just write out your story and then go up and think of an introduction. And then even after that's done, you could think of a creative title. Um, you don't have to do these things in order. Okay. It helps a lot sometimes if you don't. I say do this last. It's easier to think of something witty and creative after working on your essay for a while. Never sit and stare at a blank page trying to think of a good way to start a paper. Just start with the parts you know. You can go back and add what's missing later. Okay. And then I put introduce the subject, build interest, talking about being introverted. Tease what's to come. That is connected to, you can't really tell the way this prints out. You can tell online. But at 17, I joined the Army. That's my tease what's to come. So we know I'm about to tell a personal story. And then down here, I put show, don't tell. Describe a dreary military base. Don't say it was dreary. This is the English teacher special. Put your reader into the moment. Use your senses. Use smells and sounds and feelings, all of these things. We were standing shoulder to shoulder, packed in a cattle trailer, careening along a dirt road in Missouri. It was cramped. The trailer smelled of manure and fear, and we were all headed to the worst version of summer camp imaginable, but no one was talking. So don't just say I was in a cattle car and we were going to basic training. Really try to describe things. Zoom in, describe things. Use smells. Use what you were feeling. We were feeling fear. Try to use those descriptive words. Okay, so this is just showing you how you can use this handout to pick a style to start telling your story. That serves as the introduction to your paper. So I introduced it here, and then I started telling my story. You guys are going to do the same thing.